do you consider to be the 3 key things that we need to pay attention to that will make a difference in terms of how we build forward when it comes to relationships? I'll start with you, Pastor Bola.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And I just want you to just really celebrate yourself for being in a forum like this that is dealing with real issues, that speak to real issues in these days. But very quickly, I'll answer the question. 3 things that I think are critical for building relationship. First, I'll say friendship. Because when we think relationship, especially man-woman relationship, we're thinking the romance, we're thinking the butterflies, we're thinking attraction. And as important and vital as these things are, no one really tells you that there will be moments when the butterflies and the attraction isn't charging as high. When all is said and done, the friendship is a solid foundation to just carry you and hold you through those seasons. So friendship, number 1. Second, I think a sense of alignment. It's really important to know that we're going in the same direction. 2 people, however gifted, however powerful, however, blessed they can be, if they're just not going in the same direction, the very strength that should be taking them forward will eventually tear them apart. And we see these celebrity couples, right? We see them on YouTube, we see them on social media. We celebrate the amazing marriage of these 2 very loved and lovable people, our icons and our celebrities. And then 2 years down the line, they're telling us that they're in irreconcilable differences. Powerfully gifted people, really magnetic personalities, but somehow the energies are pulling in different directions. So do I have to give 3, or I can just leave the floor open for? So I'll say friendship, I'll say a sense of common direction, and then I'll pass the mic.
I'm not going to Pastor Godman yet. I'm going to Pastor Mildred. So,
good afternoon, everybody.
Ladies first.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mom, for having us. It's an honor to be here.
Can you hear well?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. It's working.
Don't worry, I'm warming up after a while.
Okay.
For those that don't know, when the pigeon hits, then you guys know I'm awake. Okay. But I'll try to speak loud. Without trying to repeat what Pastor Bola has said, which I mean are 2 very crucial things, friendship and making sure that your visions are aligned. I would say your personalities. A lot of people make the mistake of falling in love with someone because of what they feel the person can do for them, and not really looking at the person's weaknesses. So we usually fall in love with people's strengths, not their weaknesses. And opposites usually would attract. Now what would happen is after a while you begin to frustrate each other. The very things that you fell in love with will begin to frustrate you. So you find that you meet, for instance, a guy who's sanguine, who's outgoing and is fun-loving, and you're quiet. And you love that about him, but after a while he'll begin to irritate you. Can't you be quiet? Are you the person in the room? Why must you greet everybody? Why can't we go home early? Those kind of things. So I would say focus on also understanding each other's personalities. Every time we sit in a counseling session, I find that the things that people battle with most is the person's personality, and people are who they are. It only takes God and intentionality to change anyone. So I would say be careful, watch out for the person's personality, understand their strengths and their weaknesses. The second thing I would say is listen to the voices in your life. Don't fall in love and ignore all the people who loved you first. People do that. You fall in love with a guy and everyone is saying, look closely, there's something wrong here. But you're not listening to anyone else because somehow you're falling in love. So don't ignore the voices in your life, especially if they're voices that have been there for you and they've guided you in the right path. They won't suddenly start to guide you wrong just because you're in a relationship. So I will join and do justice.
It's women, but I'm not going to your husband. I'm going to Pastor Godman. So let's hear the male view.
Okay, thank you very much, sis, for having us. It's always a pleasure to be around you. And good afternoon, everyone, and everyone joining us online. A lot has been said already, but let me just add one to it, which is, if you struggle to trust someone, whilst you're dating, it's a huge red flag that there will be a lot of struggle in terms of trust ahead. So trust is a very, very important issue here. It's one very serious issue when it comes to who I should marry or what is important in a relationship. You know, the concept of naked and not ashamed is not a religious concept. It's just humanity, because it talks about transparency, vulnerability, and you know, so any relationship that you cannot see vulnerability and a bit of transparency should not end up in marriage. Yeah, I'll stop at that.
Very, very critical. You know, I remember in our days at school, how a lot of girls were comfortable to, one guy will have a girlfriend and then they'll have mistresses on campus. And then the girl will be proud that she's the wife. She's not married though, but she's the campus, you know, she's the recognized girlfriend, the main girl, and the others are the mistresses. And girls felt it was enough for them to marry the guy because they were the main guy. How? Were you going to change the guy? So when you marry and the guy is still doing stunts and you complain, the guy didn't change the game. You are trying to change the game because you knew, it was clear who he was. And when someone shows you who they are the first time, you believe them. Pastor Kingsley.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I also want to appreciate the convener. Thank you, Ma, for having us here. Two things. I want to talk about half-truths that can cause full problems. It's from one of my new books. I'll just touch on 2 things there. There are a lot of half-truths that people listen to that affects them. So for instance, I hear things like, this relationship issue, there are no rules. Just do you. Have you heard that before? Please totally discard that. It's half-truth. Now, the reason why it's half-truth is that, yes, every relationship has some uniqueness to it. But there are basic principles that govern anything that is working. So when people say things like, oh, there are no rules to it, do you, they are trying to bypass red flags. They're trying to bypass, relationship principles that you can't, bypass, literally. So for instance, how much knowledge are you getting as regards choosing life partner? Because this decision is one of those decisions you can't recover from easily. People nowadays make divorce look easy. Ask any divorced person. It's not as easy as they are making it look. Don't let them glamorize it. And not to, speak derogatively about anybody that's divorced. That's not the point. The point is that even the person that is divorced can tell you that it wasn't an easy thing to do. So the point is, get knowledge, get full truth about relationships. The second thing I'll talk about is managing your emotions. Every relationship that works is about emotions. Everyone that does not work is about emotions. In choosing a partner, you need to manage your emotions. In living with that partner, it's about managing your emotions. Everything we do is about our emotions. And scientists have found out that they did a scan on people's brain when they were in love, in quotes. And they found out that the part of the brain that starts to control you when you're in love is different from the part of your brain that makes logical decisions, planning. The part of your brain that brought you to this venue today is not that part. Do you understand? The part that makes wise decisions, planning, reasonable decisions, is the bigger part, but it's not the one responsible when you're about to make a love decision. So this is why many people marry people that are clearly not good for them. And at the time they're making that decision, there's no advice to give them they hear. I don't know if you've ever tried to advise somebody that is in love before. Because they're not using the part of their brain that makes logical decisions. And the sad thing about that small part that is making emotional decisions, it has no reasoning, it has no sense to it, and it doesn't last long. So 6 months to 2 years, it will disappear and leave you to the logical part of you that will now face the problems you have entered. So how do I manage my emotions? Knowledge, accountability, and if you are a Christian, a relationship with God will help you, because sometimes you need override. All right, my wife prayed a prayer when we were about to get married, when she was about to choose me. Interestingly, she said she didn't find me attractive that time. I tell her she wasn't wearing her glasses. All right, but she said one prayer she kept praying there was, Lord, bypass my emotions and show me what is right for me. And of course, you can see that God answered that prayer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can see that God answered. I mean, when I see the green,